you can't control what you're going to be remembered for. You can't. But you can hopefully still be remembered. Maybe that's the thing that we're really hoping for. The idea is that that's that two-way conversation. I want to be remembered for having done something heroic, but people will remember you for some silly nickname that you had. That's because the memory of you isn't even about you. The memory of you isn't even for you. The memory of you and the memory about you is for the people who survived. Because then, in the same way, that maybe hopefully being remembered after everything gives us a hope for having lived for some reason, some meaning, some purpose. Do we make life better by making it easier? No, we don't. Of course not. If the peak of our life was, oh my God, remember when? Man, those are some of the saddest conversations I've ever heard in my life. The conversations that begin with remember when. Remember when, remember when. That's because we glorify the past. We glorify the past when the future's dried up. And we have nothing to look forward to. Because you have all kinds of things to look forward to if you look forward to them. If you're always looking backwards, my God, think of life that way too. If you're constantly looking back, remember when? And why are you looking back to the remember whens? Because remember when you said, at least I? That's why the future is dried up. Because your remember whens are wrapped up in at least I's. Well, at least I did this. And that's why that's why people will be in their late 20s, late 30s, late 40s, late 50s, looking back and saying, remember when? Yeah. I keep the quote because we never really get to what he's actually saying, which is interesting to me. Because once you kind of understand what he means by dark and light, all of a sudden it's like, duh, okay, got it. But what he's not saying is more interesting to me, if that makes sense. So for example, all of this is really fascinating to me. You know, that we're celebrating life because we're celebrating a person because, well, why? Well, because there is a certain element of hope there that, first off, if I remember you, you'll remember me, right? It's almost like that two-way conversation is happening there where we want to remember our relatives, the people who came before us, because there's a desire that we're going to be remembered as well afterwards. And so if I remember them, I put all this effort into that, maybe people will remember me after I'm gone. And it'd be interesting if you were to die today, what would be on the altar? But I wonder if you were to die today, what would be on your altar? You ever wish you'd go to your own funeral and hear what people would say?
People that do that though. Like people that set up fake funerals for themselves so they can experience their own funeral before they die.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds kind of macabre, it sounds kind of creepy, but I mean, wouldn't you want to know what they would say? Yeah. And isn't it better to actually hear it? Because once you're gone, they might as well not have any ceremony, because the ceremony, of course, as you know, is for the living. It's not for the dead. Like when people ask, you know, what would you want to happen to your body after you die? You want to be cremated? You want to be buried? You want to be, I don't know, dumped at sea? Yeah. I know. I want a Viking funeral. I want to be sent out on a raft and have, flaming arrows shot. But you could just tell me right now, then it will be done, Scanlon. I can walk through life saying, I will have a Viking funeral after I die. And for all I know, though, after I die, they're like, all right, just dump the body in a trash can on a Thursday morning so that the sanitation workers pick it up. And that I wouldn't know any different. But that's because the death ceremony is for the living. It's not for the dead. The death ceremony is not it's not going to be for me. It's going to be for the people who still remain afterwards. And that's why that celebration perhaps matters, because we want to celebrate others in the hope that we're going to be celebrated as well. I mean, this is why a lot of people have children, I've been told, because they want people to take care of them when they're old. Because there's a terror there that we become frail as we get older and that we're going to need to be taken care of. And sometimes I see old people who have no children or no spouses, and I hear people talk about them like in these really tragic terms, like they've got no one to take care of them. I suppose if you need to be taken care of at that point, but And I suppose at some point most people will need to be taken care of, but there's kind of like an interaction there. I gave you life, so therefore at the end of my life, you sustain my life as well. It's a conversation. It's a life conversation, if that makes sense. Still working that idea out. But there's an interaction at play. Same with like the offering altars. That we hope that if we remember them, that therefore people will remember us. It's like this social agreement that we have that keeps rolling. And that gives us a certain hope. And what's the hope? Well, the hope is that our life is somehow going to have mattered at the end of all of it. Stop me if you've heard it. Life is suffering. So what we have to do is find something that helps us to transcend the suffering of life that makes it all worthwhile. And there are those things. Like you all are here today because you somehow got yourselves out of bed and came down here. There's a certain level of suffering with getting out of bed, but hopefully you're finding something here at school that helps you to transcend that, such that getting out of bed and coming to school is better than staying in bed and not. Whether it's friends, whether it's just, starting to feel what when autumn is coming. Maybe it's learning something, or maybe it's just, something to occupy your time. Maybe it's the fantastic school lunch that you're looking forward to. I told you, life is suffering. But, what's that?
I got some good stuff now.
Do they?
Yeah.
So you find something, hopefully, that helps you to transcend that. And one of the things that helps us to transcend the suffering of life is the idea that at least at the end of all of it, I'm going to be remembered for something. Now the question is what fits into that something. That's why I said it's interesting to start to postulate what goes onto the altar. What is it that people will remember you for? And again, the trip is that you can't control what you're going to be remembered for. You can't. But you can hopefully still be remembered. Maybe that's the thing that we're really hoping for. The idea is that that's that two-way conversation. I want to be remembered for having done something heroic, but people will remember you for some silly nickname that you had. But that's because the memory of you isn't even about you. The memory of you isn't even for you. The memory of you and the memory about you is for the people who survive. Because then, in the same way, that maybe hopefully being remembered after everything gives us a hope for having lived for some reason, some meaning, some purpose. Hopefully your life is such a thing that it can inspire others to do things that maybe they want to do or they were afraid to do, or just somehow that you made them feel. In other words, maybe a good meaning for your life is, if you're a good person, is people will remember that you made them feel good about themselves. And that maybe gives them a sense of hope that thing still exists in the world. One of the things I read not too long ago made me really sad, actually, was, I have to pull it up, but it was something to the effect of the average person discovers no new music after they're like 28 years old. So like once you get to be 28, you start listening to the music that you listened to when you're growing up, and that's pretty much all that you listen to for the rest of your life. But that's the majority of your life, man, after 28. Hopefully it's the majority of your life after 28. And without music, life would be a mistake. And if we discover nothing new in that one really important area after 28, I mean, my goodness, why? Like I said, everything after that point maybe is a mistake. And so I discovered this new band a couple years ago, and they're not new. They were just a band I'd never heard of before. They're called Avatar. And I got really, really into them, like last year and beginning of this year. And one of the reasons for it was they are great and they are interesting, and they're all the fantastic things I can say about a band. But it isn't just that. It's that, wow, that's neat. That means that there's hope. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff out there I haven't discovered yet in terms of music. And again, that's exciting, because now he sends you off on a search, because that means that exists in the world. And that means that there's new and exciting stuff to discover in the world. Maybe if you can be a kind person or a good person or a person who makes other people feel good about themselves, that can rekindle their their excitement about life to discover that there are still people like you in the world. Yeah.
Can I add on what you said about being 28 and not listening to new music?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the average person, when they listen to music that they listen to when they're about our age, it takes them back to a time when they didn't have responsibilities, when they were just able to just relax at any time they want and not have to worry about like paying bills or paying taxes or rent or whatever. It takes them back. It takes them back to the memories of childhood in a way.
Yeah. And as you guys know, these are the best years of your life, right?
Oh shit! Really?
Does that depress the shit out of anybody else? Like if you woke up today and you realized these are the best years of my life, like a question mark at the end, wouldn't that be so incredibly disappointing? Wouldn't it be incredibly disappointing to find out that, like for example, graduation is the highlight of your life? It's like the peak of your life. And especially if you're one of those losers who graduates with a modified graduation plan, like that was the peak of your life. No, seriously. Oh, sorry. You guys are, I know, COVID. You did the best you could. And I'm so proud of you all for getting out of bed this morning and just being here. My God, how little do people think of you if they actually tell you stuff like that? I don't tell you that to be mean to you. It's because I think more highly of you than that. I know that you're capable of some stuff. Hear me out. That teacher who comes along, or that person in your life who comes along and says, I am so proud of you for being here today. You had to overcome something. I'm so proud of you. They think that you are down here below them because they have no trouble getting up every day and showing up here. You know why? Because they think they're better than you. They think that you're low and that they think that you're undisciplined. They think that you're weak. They think that you're cowardly. And they think, and by the way, they like that because that means that now they can come in and swoop in and be the superhero that you need. That means that you need them, and there's their meaning and their purpose in life, to save you all. Because you all need saving, right? Does a single person in here really feel like you need me to come along and save you? Good. Good. I mean, if you're getting your ass kicked and you look up and I'm there, you can always tag me and just I'll jump in the fray with you. But other than that, I can't think of a single person in here who needs me to save you. Some of you might feel like you need to manipulate me to save yourself. Scanlon, I just couldn't get the journal in today because, sorry, my grandma died. Again. Wait, is this the same grandmother who was abducted by aliens during the last, yeah, they finally got her. With the death fear or something, we don't know. And just, I know, with everything with like Ukraine, that's still going on, right? Okay, and I mean, Gaza, what could we possibly, you might feel like you need to manipulate me, but to try to save yourself, but my God, that just means that you'd see a lot of people for what they are, which is an impediment to your development. And that's what all these excuses are. They're impediments for your development. So I'm not going to lie to you, man. I mean, I know it would make you like me if I lied to you and just said it's just as good as any other diploma. No, but imagine if that's the peak of your life. The peak of your life begins with, well, at least the sad conversation piece. Well, you know what? At least. Would you ever accept that from anybody you love? And I mean that you love and you care about, not just that you like having them around, because that way you don't have to feel so goddamn alone. I mean something that you actually love and care about. Would you want that for them, or would you want them to achieve more because they could, because they're capable of it, and you want to see them do better? I don't think any of us would accept that from anybody that we actually love and care about. So I'm not going to sit here and say, well, I know that you're struggling 3 goddamn years after a pandemic that really didn't interfere with anybody because, let's face it, online education was so simple. I had my cat Theodore teaching 2 sections at one point. Let's face that. And anybody would sit there and really sit there and go, I struggled so much because the work was so hard. No, what did we struggle with? The motivation. Yeah, it's hard to be motivated when you're pajamas. in bed, where it's warm, right next to your phone, with every distraction in the universe next to you. Yeah, I can imagine it was difficult. I know that. How do I know that? I was playing Civilization 6 while I was teaching classes. That's how I know that. Literally. Laptop here, computer here. So yeah, because it was so hard. No, it wasn't hard. It was hard to be motivated. But therefore what? Therefore, do we make life better by making it easier? No. No, we don't. Of course not. But I digress a little bit. But going back to what I was saying now, imagine if the peak of your life was, well, at least I. That'd be kind of like music. If the peak of our life was, oh my God, remember when? Man, those are some of the saddest conversations I've ever heard in my life. The conversations that begin with, remember when. Remember when, remember when. That's because we glorify the past. We glorify the past when the future's dried up. When we have nothing to look forward to. Because you have all kinds of things to look forward to if you look forward to them. If you're always looking backwards, my God. In fact, here's your homework assignment for tonight. You ready? I don't usually give you homework. I'm going to give you homework tonight. Your job now is to go home tonight at some point, and I want you to look behind you, and I want you to run as fast as you can through your house without running into anything. Okay?
Mom would kill me.
I think you probably kill her first. Why? Because you can't run forward when you're looking backward. And you're going to run into stuff, and you're going to hurt yourself. You're not going to get very far looking backwards. And so what do? You have to look forward. So think of life that way too. If you're constantly looking back, remember when? And why are you looking back to the remember whens? Because remember when you said, at least I? That's why the future is dried up. Because your remember whens are wrapped up in at least I's. Well, at least I did this. And that's why people will be in their late 20s, late 30s, late 40s, late 50s, looking back and saying, remember when? Yeah. And you'll be those folks who show up to homecoming every year, despite the fact that your Letterman's jacket keeps shrinking for some reason. Maybe it's the weather, I don't know. Keeps getting tighter on you. And you'll be talking to people you saw back in high school and saying, I remember when. I hope not, man. I tell you this. I understand it's pissing some of you off and you guys will shut me up. I'm not telling you this obviously to be popular, man. I'm telling you this because I care about you. I got to pay you if you remember what this means.
I would say it's sadder if your Letterman jacket still fits you. From high school. My grandma noticed that guys in like their 30s with their Letterman jackets still fitting them.
Maybe they were jacked in high school and they're jacked now.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. It's a difference. Girls will be like, my dress still fits me. Guys will be like, this thing still fits me? I'm going to stop it there. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques.